Commander Lee Sung gripped the metal railing as another explosion rocked the bridge of the battleship Defiance. Red emergency lights flashed across his face while sparks flew from damaged control panels. The smell of burning electronics filled the air. Through the main viewing screen, he could see the massive alien ships moving closer, their dark hulls gleaming with strange purple energy. "Sir, the horizon just went down," reported Lieutenant Park Jimin from her position at the communications station. Her voice shook slightly, but she kept working. "That makes 43 ships lost in the last hour." Lee Sung closed his eyes for a moment. 43 ships. Each one carried nearly 1,000 crew members, good people who had families waiting for them back on Earth. Now they were all gone, turned to space dust by the alien weapons that cut through their armor like it was made of paper. The battle had started so well. 300 human ships had jumped into the Kepler system to defend the mining colonies there. The colonists had sent desperate messages about alien raiders attacking their settlements. The Earth Defense Force had responded quickly, confident in their newest battleships and advanced weapons. But the aliens were not simple raiders. They called themselves the Hegemony, and their technology was far beyond anything humans had ever seen. Their ships were 3 times larger than Earth's biggest battleships. Purple energy beams shot from their weapons, slicing through human shields like they did not exist. "Distance to enemy fleet?" Lee Sung asked, trying to keep his voice steady. 2,000 kilometers in closing, answered Ensign Kim Ho-jin from the tactical station. The young man looked terrified, but he stayed at his posts. "Their main guns are charging again." Lee Sung watched the alien dreadnoughts approach. Each one was the size of a small city, covered in weapon ports that glowed with deadly energy. The largest ship, clearly their flagship, had strange markings along its hull. Intelligence reports said it belonged to Supreme Commander Velthor, the alien leader who had been destroying human colonies for months. "Sir, incoming transmission from Admiral Kim," Gimin called out. "He's ordering all remaining ships to retreat." The main screen changed to show Admiral Kim Young-soo's face. The older man looked tired and defeated. Behind him, his own bridge was filled with smoke and sparks. "All ships. This is Admiral Kim. We cannot win this battle. Repeat, we cannot win. All surviving vessels are to retreat immediately. Jump to Rally Point Delta 7. Lee Sung felt his heart sink. In 30 years of military service, he had never heard such words from a human commander. They were giving up, running away. But as he looked at the tactical display, he knew there was no other choice. Of the 300 ships that had started the battle, only 36 were still able to fight. "Sir, should we jump to hyperspace?" asked Kim Ho-jin. Before Lee Sung could answer, the alien flagship opened fire. A massive purple beam shot across space, striking the cruiser's Soul Pride directly. The human ship simply vanished in a ball of white light. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. "Jump now," Lee Sung ordered. All power to hyperspace engines. But as the Defiance began to charge its jump drive, the alien commander's voice filled the bridge. The translation system made his words sound cold and emotionless. "Humans of Earth, I am Supreme Commander Velthor of the Hegemony. You're pathetic. Resistance ends here. Look around you. See how easily we destroy your finest ships. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your armor cannot protect you." Lee Sung watched more human ships explode as the alien voice continued. "We offer you one chance. Surrender now. Submit to hegemony rule. Your species may serve as workers in our empire. Refuse, and we will burn every human world until nothing remains." The hyperspace drive finally activated, and the Defiance jumped away from the battle. But even in hyperspace, Velthar's voice seemed to follow them. "We know where your homeworld is, humans. We know where Earth hides. Soon we will come for you. And when we do, there will be no escape." When they arrived at the rally point, Lee Sung saw the horrible truth. Only 36 ships had made it out of 300. The flower of Earth's military had been destroyed in a single afternoon. Crews who had trained for years, ships that had taken decades to build, all gone. Admiral Kim's image appeared on screen again. This time, he looked like he had aged 10 years. All ships, set course for Earth. We need to warn them what's coming. The hegemony has weapons we cannot match. Ships we cannot destroy. They will reach our colonies within months. As the small fleet jumped toward Earth, Lee Song stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the alien armada was celebrating their victory. They thought the war was over. They thought humanity was beaten. But Lee Sung remembered something his grandfather had told him about the old wars on Earth. Sometimes the best victories came after the worst defeats. Sometimes losing everything was just the beginning. The journey home would take 3 days. 3 days to plan. 3 days to think. 3 days to figure out how to fight an enemy that seemed impossible to beat. The war was far from over. Supreme Commander Velthar stood in the center of the Great Hall, his scaled hands raised high above his head. Round him, representatives from dozens of alien species cheered and made their own victory sounds. The Zephyrians clicked their mandibles in approval. The Corvin delegates stomped their heavy feet on the metal floor. Even the usually quiet ethereals hummed their pleasure through their breathing apparatus. The human threat has been eliminated, Velthar announced, his voice carrying easily across the massive chamber. The translation devices built into every seat turned his words into the native languages of each species present.
Ow.
Their expansion across the galaxy stops today. Their colonies are now ours to claim. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in celebration. For years, the younger species had watched humanity spread across the stars with growing concern. Humans built colonies. Faster than any race in known history, they turned dead worlds into thriving settlements in mere decades. Their population grew at an alarming rate, and they seemed to want every planet they could reach. Ambassador Korthel of the Zephyrian Empire rose from his seat. Supreme Commander, the Council wishes to know your plans for the human territories. Their colonies contain valuable resources that many of our member species could use. Velthar's reptilian features twisted into what might have been a smile. The mining worlds will be distributed among Council members based on contribution to the war effort. The agricultural planets will feed our growing populations. As for the humans themselves, those who survive will serve as laborers. They are surprisingly strong for such a primitive species. More cheers filled the hall. The war against humanity had been expensive, but the rewards would be enormous. Human colonies produced rare metals, food, and energy sources that would benefit the entire hegemony for generations. But in a smaller room, far below the celebration, intelligence analyst Ketron stared at his screens with growing worry. The reptilian officer had been monitoring human communications since the battle at Kepler, and what he saw made no sense. Officer Yondeth, he called to his supervisor. I need you to look at these readings. Yondeth approached the monitoring station, his forearms moving gracefully as he operated the controls. What am I looking at, analyst? Human industrial activity, sir. After their defeat, all manufacturing on Earth should have either stopped or switched to producing surrender terms. Instead, look at these energy signatures. The screen showed Earth's solar system from long-range sensors. Normally, human industrial activity showed as steady patterns of energy use. Factories, shipyards, and mining operations all had recognizable signatures that intelligence officers could easily identify. But now, something had changed. The energy patterns were different, stronger, more focused. And they were coming from places that had never shown industrial activity before. They are building something, Catherine continued. But not defensive platforms like we would expect. These patterns suggest ship construction, but on a scale I have never seen. The asteroid belt around their star is showing massive construction. Activity. Yondith studied the data for several minutes. How many ships could they be building? Based on the energy readings, thousands. Maybe tens of thousands? But that makes no sense. They lost almost their entire fleet at Kepler. Why would they build so many ships when they have no crews to fly them? The supervisor dismissed the concerns with a wave of his hand. Desperate. Actions of a dying civilization. They probably think they can build enough ships to frighten us into negotiations. Or perhaps they plan to use them as automated weapons. Either way, it does not matter. Our shields can stop any weapon they possess. But Kethrin was not convinced. He had studied human military history during his training. Humans had a strange habit of doing unexpected things when they were cornered. On their own world, they had fought wars that lasted for years, sometimes decades. They never seemed to give up, even when defeat was certain. Sir, I recommend we increase surveillance of the human system. Something about this feels wrong. Yondeth was already walking away. File your report, analyst. But do not waste too much time on this. The humans are finished. Supreme Commander, Velthar proved that at Kepler. Above them, the celebration continued. Velthor had moved to the center of the chamber, where a large holographic display showed the human territories. Red markers indicated former human colonies that were now under hegemony control. In 6 months, we will begin the final phase, Velthar announced. Our fleets will move on the remaining human worlds. Earth itself will fall within the year. The human species will learn to serve their betters, or they will learn to die. The crowd cheered again. Some delegates were already making plans for which human worlds they wanted to claim. The agricultural planet of New Korea was particularly valuable. The mining operations on New Busan produced rare crystals used in advanced technology. But as the celebration reached its peak, Kethrin sat alone in his monitoring station, watching the strange energy patterns from Earth's system. The humans were building something big, something they had never built before. He tried to tell himself that his supervisor was right. The humans were defeated. Their best ships were destroyed. Their finest officers were dead. What could they possibly build that would make a difference? But deep in his mind, a small voice whispered a warning. Humans were dangerous when they were desperate. And right now, they had nothing left to lose. The celebration above continued long into the night. But Kethrin kept watching the screens, waiting for something that he could not name but somehow knew was coming. Deep beneath the mountains of Korea, General Choi Daeho walked through corridors that most people did not know existed. The underground facility stretched 4 kilometers in every direction, carved from solid rock during the early days of human space exploration. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the walls as he made his way to the most secure room in the complex. At the heavy metal door, he placed his hand on a scanner and looked into a device that checked his eyes. The computer verified his identity, and the door opened with a soft hiss. Inside, dozens of military officers and scientists worked at glowing screens, their faces lit by the blue light of holographic displays. General Choi called Dr. Han So-young. From across the room, the chief engineer was a small woman with graying hair. But her eyes held the intensity of someone who had spent her life solving impossible problems. "We have been waiting for you." Choi approached the main display table, where a 3-dimensional map of the solar system rotated slowly. Red dots marked every human military installation, factory, and shipyard. But as he watched, the red dots began changing to blue one by one. "Show me," he said simply. Dr. Han touched the controls, and the display zoomed in on Earth's industrial centers. Every major factory on the planet is being converted. Every shipyard, every mining operation. We are shutting down production of everything except one thing. The display changed to show technical drawings of a new type of spacecraft. Unlike the sleek cruisers and carriers that had fought at Kepler, this ship looked brutal and simple. Its hull was thick and angular, covered in heavy armor plating. Massive weapons were mounted along its sides. Its engines were built for short-range power rather than long-distance travel. The Retribution-class gunship, Dr. Han continued. "We designed it after studying every detail of the Kepler battle. The aliens have superior energy weapons and shields, but they fight at long range. These ships are built for one purpose: getting close enough to deliver devastating kinetic attacks." General Choi studied the design. How close? Within 500 meters. At that range, their energy shields become useless against solid projectiles. These ships carry enough armor to survive the approach, and enough firepower to destroy anything once they reach close range. The general nodded slowly. "How many can we build?" With full planetary conversion, we can produce 1,000 ships per month, but we need time. Intelligence suggests the aliens will attack our remaining colonies within 6 months. Choi looked at the production schedules on the screen. Numbers and dates filled the display, showing the massive effort required. To build such a fleet, we'll have 5,000 ready in 4 months, another 5,000 in the following 60 days. Can these ships work? Dr. Han smiled grimly. General, these ships are not designed to work. They are designed to win, or die trying. Across Earth's solar system, the greatest industrial effort in human history was beginning. On the moon, massive. Factories that had once produced luxury goods were being converted to build armor plating. The asteroid belt mining operations stopped extracting rare metals and began producing hull materials. Even the orbital stations around Mars were being transformed into weapons manufacturing facilities. But the most important part of the plan was not the ships themselves. It was the people who would fly them in recruitment centers across Earth. Volunteers formed long lines that stretched 4 blocks. These were not the young cadets who had joined the military for adventure. These were older people, many of them. Former military officers who had retired to civilian life, people who had lost family members in the colonies attacked by the hegemony. Captain Yoon Tae-ho stood in one such line in Seoul. He was 45 years old, too old for normal military service. But his daughter had been living on the mining colony of New Busan when the aliens attacked. The colony was gone now, along with everyone who had lived there. Next, called the recruitment officer, a young woman who looked barely old enough to be in the military herself. Yoon stepped forward and placed his service record on the desk. I want to volunteer for the new fleet. The officer looked at his file. Sir, you are retired. You have not flown combat missions in 15 years. Know how to fly, Yoon replied quietly. And I know how to fight, that is enough. The officer stamped his papers. Report to Training Facility 7 tomorrow at 0600 hours. Welcome back to active duty, Captain. Similar scenes played out across the planet. Engineers who had designed the ships that were destroyed at Kepler volunteered to fly the new gunships. Factory workers who had built the weapons demanded the chance to use them. Even civilian pilots, with no military experience, asked to join the fleet. They all had one thing in common. They had lost something to the aliens. Family, friends, homes, or simply the future they had planned. Now, they wanted revenge. In the underground facility, General Choi watched the recruitment numbers climb. How many volunteers do we have? Over 2 million applications in the first week, reported his aide. We only need crews for 10,000 ships. Choi nodded. Select the best.
What?
Train them hard, and make sure they understand what we are asking them to do, sir. We're not asking them to survive, Lieutenant. We are asking them to win. There is a difference. Above them, the conversion continued. Humanity was preparing for war in a way they never had before. This time, they would not fight like gentlemen. They would fight like humans. Supreme Commander Velthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human colony of New Seoul grow larger on the viewing screen. The planet looked peaceful from space, with white clouds swirling over green continents. Soon, it would be another hegemony world, and the humans living there would serve as workers in the mines and factories. Sir, we are detecting hyperspace signatures, reported his tactical officer, a young hegemony warrior named Zektar. Multiple contacts approaching from the direction of Earth. Velthar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. The humans are sending another fleet to die. How many ships? Scanning now, sir. Account. 50 vessels. They appear to be moving in tight formation. 50 ships. Velthar almost laughed. The humans had brought 300 ships and still lost badly. Did they really think 50 ships would make a difference? All ships, prepare for battle, he ordered. This will be over quickly. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. But as Velthor studied them through the long-range sensors, he frowned. These ships looked different from the ones they had destroyed at Kepler. They were smaller, but much thicker. Their hulls were dark and angular, covered in what looked like massive armor plating. Sir, the human ships are moving toward us, Zektar reported. But they are not taking defensive positions. they are, charging straight at us. Velthar stared at the tactical display. The human ships were indeed flying directly toward his fleet, ignoring all normal space combat tactics. They were not spreading out to avoid concentrated fire. They were not using long-range weapons. They were simply flying straight at the alien fleet at maximum speed. They must be planning a suicide attack, Velthor decided. All ships open. Fire at maximum range. Destroy them before they can ram us. The hegemony fleet opened fire with their devastating energy weapons. Purple beams of pure energy shot across space, striking the approaching human ships. The aliens expected to see the humans explode instantly. It's just like at Kepler. Instead, the human ships kept coming. The energy beams struck the thick armor of the lead ship, turning the metal white hot. But the ship did not explode, did not even slow down. The armor glowed like a star, but it held together. "Sir, our weapons are not stopping them," Zekdar said, his voice filled with confusion. "They're absorbing damage that should have destroyed them." Velthar watched in growing alarm as the human ships continued their charge. Their armor was melting under the constant bombardment, but they kept flying toward his fleet. What kind of ships were these? What kind of armor could survive such punishment? "Increase fire rate," he ordered. "All ships, concentrate fire on the lead vessel." Every weapon in the alien fleet focused on a single human ship. The vessel became a ball of white-hot metal, its armor glowing so brightly it hurt to look at. But it still kept coming, and then it reached close range. The human ship opened fire with weapons unlike anything Velthor had ever seen. Instead of energy beams, it fired solid projectiles at incredible speed. Massive chunks of metal shot from its guns, striking the alien flagship's shields. The shields flickered and died. "Impossible," Velthor whispered. "Our shields can stop any weapon." But the human kinetic cannons were not like the energy weapons the shields were designed to stop. They were simple, brutal, and devastatingly effective. The metal projectiles punched through the alien armor like it was made of paper. "Sir Hullbreach on Deck 7, reported the damage control officer. "The humans are using kinetic weapons. Our shields cannot stop solid objects at this velocity." More human ships reached close range, their armor still glowing from the alien bombardment. Each one opened fire with the same brutal kinetic cannons. The carefully organized alien formation began to break apart as ship after ship took crippling damage. "All ships, retreat to long range," Velthor ordered. Dora formed the battle line. But the human ships followed, their powerful engines keeping them close to the alien fleet. They seemed to have no interest in long-range combat. They wanted to fight at point-blank range, where their primitive but effective weapons could do the most damage. A transmission came through the communications system. The voice was calm and measured, speaking in perfect hegemony language. "This is Captain Yoon Taeho of the Earth Defense Force. You wanted to see what humans do when cornered. We don't surrender. We adapt." Velthor stared at the tactical display. As more human ships closed in, his flagship shuddered under another kinetic bombardment. Around him, his carefully planned battle formation was falling apart. "Sir, we are receiving damage reports from all ships," Zekdar reported. "The human weapons are incredibly effective at close range. Our armor cannot stop them." "Then we fight at long range," Velthar snapped. "Use our superior speed to maintain distance." But the human ships had been designed for this exact situation. They were fast enough to keep up with the alien fleet, tough enough to survive the approach, armed with weapons that were devastatingly effective at close range. For the first time in his long military career, Supreme Commander Velthor felt something he had never experienced before: fear. These humans were not fighting like the defeated enemy he had expected. They were fighting like warriors who had nothing left to lose, and they were winning. The battle raged for hours, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The human gunships swarmed around the alien fleet like angry insects, their kinetic weapons tearing through shields and armor with brutal efficiency. One by one, the mighty hegemony warships fell silent. Admiral Kim Young-soo stood on the bridge of the gunship Incheon's Fury, watching the largest fleet in human history emerge from hyperspace. Ship after ship appeared in flashes of blue light, their dark hulls gleaming with fresh armor plating. Each vessel bore the name of a human colony that the hegemony had destroyed. New Soul's Revenge, Zhan's Wrath, Jeju's Last Stand. 10,000 ships, all built for one purpose. Sir, all fleet elements are in position, reported Commander Park Minho from the tactical station. We have confirmed contact with the main hegemony fleet. They are moving toward Earth's outer colonies. Kim Young-soo nodded slowly. The aliens thought they were coming to finish off humanity. They expected to find scattered defensive forces and terrified civilians. Instead, they would find the largest military force ever assembled by any species in the galaxy. Open a channel to the hegemony flagship, he ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the reptilian face of Supreme Commander Velthor. The alien leader looked confident, surrounded by his bridge crew on what was clearly a massive warship. Behind him, tactical displays showed hundreds of hegemony vessels approaching Earth's territory. Human Admiral Velthar spoke, his words translated by the communication system. I'm surprised you still resist. Did you not learn your lesson at Kepler? Your pathetic fleet was destroyed. Your colonies burn. Surrender now, and some of your people may live as slaves. Kim Young-soo smiled coldly. You declared this war won, Commander? You were wrong. Wrong. Velthar laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. Look around you, human. We have 5,000 ships, the finest. Weapons in the galaxy, technology your primitive species cannot understand. What do you have? We have something you don't understand, Kim Young-soo replied. We have anger, he gestured to Commander Park, who began transmitting tactical data to the entire human fleet. The hegemony had spread their ships across a wide area, confident that their superior technology would make short work of any human resistance. They had not expected to face 10,000 ships at once. All ships, this is Admiral Kim, he announced over the fleet communication system. You know why we are here? You know what they did to our people? Today, we take back what is ours. The human fleet began to move. Unlike the careful formations used in traditional space combat, the gunships swarmed toward the alien fleet like angry hornets. Their engines burned bright blue as they accelerated to maximum speed, their heavy armor glowing dully in the starlight. Velthor's expression changed from confidence to confusion as he watched the human approach. They are charging directly at us again. Do they never learn? But this time was different. At Kepler, the humans had brought 300 ships and lost. In the recent skirmishes, they had sent dozens of gunships and won small victories. Now they brought 10,000 ships, and each one was crewed by volunteers who had nothing left to lose. The hegemony fleet opened fire with their energy weapons, filling space with deadly purple beams. The human ships absorbed the bombardment, their armor heating to white-hot temperatures. But they kept coming, wave after wave of dark vessels, pushing through the alien fire. Sir, they are not stopping, reported Velthar's tactical officer. Our weapons are hitting them, but they are not being destroyed. Impossible, Velthar snarled. Increase fire rate. All ships concentrate on the lead elements. But there were too many human ships. The alien fleet could destroy dozens of gunships, but hundreds more took their place. The humans had built their fleet with one simple principle. If you can't avoid taking damage, build ships that can survive. Yet the first wave of gunships reached close range and opened fire. Their kinetic cannons roared, sending streams of metal projectiles into the alien formation. Hegemony shields flickered and died under the brutal bombardment. Alien armor, designed to resist energy weapons, crumpled under the impact of solid metal traveling at incredible speed. Sir, the Dominator is reporting heavy damage, came the report from Velthar's communications officer.
Oh.
Their shields are down. Hull breaches on multiple decks. More human ships reached close range, their weapons adding to the devastating barrage. The carefully organized alien fleet began to break apart as ship after ship took crippling damage. The hegemony's technological superiority meant nothing when the enemy was close enough to touch tap, Captain Yoon Tae-ho, commanding the gunship Daughters. Memory watched an alien cruiser explode under concentrated fire from his squadron. Each shot was fired in memory of the colony where his daughter had lived. Each explosion was a small piece of justice for the millions of humans who had died in the alien attacks. Target the flagship, he ordered his weapons officer. Let's end this. The Inchen's Fury and a dozen other gunships concentrated their fire on Velthor's massive dreadnought. The alien ship's shields collapsed under the kinetic bombardment, and its hull began to crack and split. On the bridge of the dying flagship, Velthar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His mighty fleet was being destroyed by primitive, human weapons. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being torn apart by simple kinetic cannons. "Sir, we must retreat," his tactical officer urged. "We cannot win this battle." But there was nowhere to retreat to. The human fleet surrounded them completely, wave after wave of dark ships closing in for the kill. The aliens had superior technology, but the humans had superior numbers and the will to use them. "Signal all ships," Admiral Kim announced. "We're going home, and we're taking our colonies back." The galaxy had learned too late that humans didn't just fight wars, they ended them.